Defiance is a pretty bold name for a cornfield mosquito ranch in the middle of nowhere. You're sure this is the place Viktor told you about?
Sure as a goose in galoshes. That is, he shouldn't have punched me in the head if he expected me to remember everything he said.
Oh. Well, galoshes would be nice. We're standing in a creek or something.
Ooh, what's that? Well, Begorra! There's a proper fairy mound if I ever saw one.
There aren't any fairies here. Ugh! Just a lot of stupid cicadas. Okay, what did you find? A weed lump with a door?
It's an old spring house. I'd wager it's a hiding place to boot.
How very mysterious. Hey, speaking of which, how do I get your cagey cousin to talk to me?
Ask him about the Cardinals. Or the Browns, or... Ah!
No, I mean, how do I slice into the juicy core where all the dark secrets and turmoil and interesting stuff is?
Poking around dark corners is liable to stir up some unpleasantness, Miss Pepper. Now, if only I could see... Ah! Illumination! I must have moonbeams in my eyes. And I see our surly Slovak was sincere after all. Such a sparkling stockpile of spirit should satisfactorily supplant that insufferable swill we serve. Miss M will be so... What's another good S word? Oh. Hello there. Hi. This must be your weed lump. I suppose you're wondering why I'm taking it apart. Well, appearances aren't what they appear to be. See, we were just out admiring the corn. Then your rock wobbled, so I...
Can we cut to the chase? To whom it may concern in the scary vehicle, please pardon my rambling companion. Your corn is very charming, and the variety of bug bites one might acquire here is truly impressive. But let's not dwell on niceties, because we need booze.
Go! Corn! No! Why isn't this corn tall enough? This is terrible corn! Ah! Barn! No! Why does this barn have car-sized holes in it? This barn is useless! Well, except for all these pointy things.
Oh look, we found more corn.
Huh. It's possible I've made the situation slightly worse.
I hope you enjoyed that, because it was your last time driving the earth, you old Dane maniac.
Damnation! I couldn't stop. What did we hit?
Irrigation pipe. Tires are gone too. Look what you did to the bloody fender.
Oh, sugar beets. Oh, boy. I don't want to be around when your stupid, terrible good luck runs out. Okay, you're free. We gotta go. Come on, eyes open. There. Well, don't just lay there with your eyes open. Come on. That was not especially helpful. Sorry.
Right, at least you're thorough, Abelard. There's 4 tires wrecked, there's a long walk home in our future. Help me put this pipeline back together first.
Did you see which direction they vanished in?
No, I lost track of when my life started flashing before my eyes on the downhill. But don't worry, I'm sure they've scurried off with the fear of the Holy Ghost in them. Or at least the fear of unhinged clergy in large automobiles.
Well, I thought I just heard voices.
Just now, I figured you'd been hearing them all along. Blimey, you got one after all. That's one way to save a soul. Run them over before they even have a chance to...
Enough! I didn't mean to hit them.
You had me fooled. Still, if that's what it comes to, on the upside, you make a right proper scarecrow.
Hey, don't you hurt him.
It seems a bit late for that. This is yours, is it?
Yes. He's not dead, is he? Well, I tried that already.
What do you propose I do then? Wake him up with a gentle kiss? I'm not sure I want to. It's one less of your high school jelly beans I have to worry about slinking around out here trying to raid one of our stalls.
Hey, I'm in college. And I'm not sure he actually ever went to school.
It doesn't matter. You have no idea the trouble you could get us in.
But we're buyers, not slinkers. You might have known if you weren't so eager to run us down.
Look, can I be any clearer? You being here is a problem. And did you just steal that gun out of the car?
Yep.
Petulant child.
Well, give it back. Do you even know how to use that?
Give me that gun right now. And go away from here.
No.
You don't sound too certain. You should probably just hand it over.
No, I mean, yes. What I mean is I know how to.
You, child, are you listening to me? Don't you back away from the glim. Don't you know it's but a wicked threadbare skin that holds back the wicked troubled sea in every soul? And it takes but one iniquitous choice to tear a rent in it? Give me the gun. Give it to me. Because in that sea, there's no surface, no chance of a burning breath, no vindicating sun. And every stumble and misdeed made thereafter in that bitter deep is another hot iron ring about your neck to speed your descent into the boiling black.
You look like a giant spider. Don't do that.
But, hellfire.
He does look like a giant spider, but don't take it out on the earth. We need that.
Well, you don't grow up around a bunch of scoundrel bootleggers without learning how to shoot, do you? Should I keep shooting things? I mean, what'll it take to convince you we're on the same side?
Well, not that. Maybe that. I don't know. I've never had anything that squeaky pull a gun on me before. Alright. If it'll momentarily stop you putting more holes and dents in my livelihood, just which scoundrel bootleggers are we talking about?
Arterial fluid? You aren't cutting the liquor with this stuff, are you? That was the problem with our last supplier. What's this? An organ pulper? I thought you guys were in the booze business. What do you need all these morbid doohickeys for?
Well, we are in the deaf business too. There's some amount of overlap.
What's this? A bloodsucker?
Yes.
Bobby. What sort of trouble are you dragging into this house now?
Roadkill. Courtesy of your brother. Trifling problem though. My trade requires this to be rather more dead than it seems to be. It keeps bleeding.
What's the poor thing doing down here then?
I didn't want him to ruin the parlour upholstery. And I figure if he wakes up at an embalming table, we can all just have a good long laugh about the whole situation. So, maybe you can put his head back together? Elsa, she's a nurse.
Former nurse.
I met her overseas just after the war. I had trench foot and she had a hotsy-totsy little...
What's your name, dear?
Ivy. The mangled one is Rocky.
I'll see what I can do to fix that.
We had to shoulder him back here, but it was the only thing to do, Elsa. It seems we have a pair of Lackadaisy emissaries on our hands. The ship went down with the captain, last I knew, but she says Viktor Vasko sent them.
Victor. Really? Why didn't he come himself? How is he?
Well, better than this one at the very moment, but slightly indisposed, you could say.
I still don't understand why he would send...
Maybe because I do such a good impersonation. The reason actually is because I'm a Pepper, Ruby Pepper's girl. My dad and Atlas go way back, you know. When I was a kid and my dad had some business with Atlas, he'd sometimes take me to St. Louis, to the Lackadaisy. It was like being royalty. Everyone was so nice to me. I guess because Atlas was my godfather. Anyway, now I'm grown, I've decided to stay there.
I see. Well, I'm sorry for what happened to Atlas. He was difficult to read, but he always had a mild, soft-spoken way about him.
Soft-spoken and positively Machiavellian. It was a no holds barred situation when he had Victor and the other one along.
Who? Mordecai? When were they all here?
Many a times, especially in the early days when Volstead was the newest craze and Atlas was carving out a foothold. Contrarily, our post-mortem services were a bit slower to catch on in the wild. Profit was a pittance, but all Atlas saw was the halo of potential. See, these hinterlands are doubly blessed with a dearth of law enforcement and a market rail depot. Atlas, likely with the aid of your dad, did see some string pulling to make sure the train arrived burdened with bottles. Old log cabin, Cuban ram, the real McCoys. I'd bet it's paying for that higher education of yours now. Anyway, as you seldom get a sideways look loading long boxes off a train and into a hearse, it was our place to pick it up and store it for a broker's percentage. We were altogether proud of the brilliance in this little arrangement, until some local cattle rustling, train robbing rabble figured on liquor being easier to rustle and chaps like us being easier to rob, and that they did.
They shot our organ player.
It was right about then Atlas first brought Lefty and Ratty up here to sort things out. They just sat themselves down at the one general store in town and played chess up until inevitably one of those roughnecks showed up needing supplies. He was understandably reticent concerning the whereabouts of his mates, but discovered he had a good many things to discuss from the interior of a preoccupied pine box.
It would probably be in your best interest to stop screaming and start enunciating while we can still hear you.
Talk. Yes. That's when things got really interesting. It turned out this lot were playing cowboys and gangsters with some boys from the city peddling to them what they stole from us. This city gang, some Sicilians or something. Well, Alice happened to know they were in the midst of a turf war with a then blossoming establishment you might know as Marigold. And there was this lodge up in the hills where...
Don't tell her these awful stories, Bobby.
Ah, it's a bloody good story. Besides, she almost blew us away earlier. I mean, you know what's what, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Tell me more.
Alright. What was I getting at? Oh, the lodge tucked back here in the nowhere. The country mice and the city mice had been meeting there to make their exchanges. Newly privy to that, Atlas decided he'd make a rather bold gesture of confronting our nuisance and doing Marigold an unsolicited favour. In a business of bitter enemies, it doesn't hurt to make a friend, yeah? Anyway, in that spirit, the captive cattle thief was returned to his friends.
You're just gonna stand there in the threshold?
Behind me! Behind me!
Where the hell have you been? You smell like death. Look
With
out!
a souvenir from the war. Then Victor and Mordecai made their way through the place like a minor tornado. Victor was something of a remnant from the war himself. And Mordecai, well, come to think of it, he couldn't have been very much older than you at the time. He'd had an early start, though supposedly still in knee pants when he began keeping books for grifters and gamblers in New York. Well, things must have soured for him there. Atlas said when he crossed his path, he was looking rather worse for wear, riding a getaway train towards Chicago or Detroit, with some deeply unhappy associates on his heels. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that, left to his own agencies, he'd brought his own troubles on himself. For all his qualifications with books and odds and percentages and what, he'd always been about as personable as a bespectacled barbed-wired post, and likely tallied up more enemies than friends. I've heard it said some long ago, Incident left a little bit of lead rattling about his cranium and carved him that wonky streak. While I never had the goal to ask him myself if that was true, I can tell you Atlas didn't see the personality problem as a problem, so much as a facility worth fostering, however. So, as the story I know goes, Atlas settled some of his pursuing grievances, gave him the veritable shirt off of his back, placed him on his feet, and set him to work. And from what I gathered, the boy had been learning fast.
Okay,
I meant to do that.
get out now.
Victor, I figured, for more a bundle of nerves and a crack brain. If he was anything like my mates, the ones who weren't numbed or shell-shocked, he'd have gone back home from the front, back to work, resembling electric wire with all the sheathing stripped off. And that must have made whatever labour conflict erupted around him into something of a powder keg situation, because he didn't waste any time barreling into some political turmoil, the sort that comes to blows. As I understand it, the dock workers faction of the Great Unwashed he'd settled in with through an unhappy party when Palmer raids cost them some union leaders. The strikebreakers and the authorities arrived uninvited, of course, and they all had themselves a great big row. That's how we lost the eye, tossing the constabulary about like ragdolls. It took a well-aimed pry-bar to put that fire out long enough they could subdue him. Or so Atlas recounted. Whatever business he had at the riverfront that day was superseded by the event, so he joined the spectators. Victor's performance must have left an impression, as Atlas went to some trouble turning up a lawyer for him. One who held aloft Victor's national service, against his former countryman no less, to ally any silly ideas he represented. Some foreign breed of anarchist monster. It must have worked, because his little sojourn to prison was cursory compared to some others. Afterward, he reunited with Atlas to work off the debt. By the time his indenture was up, well, I suppose he'd crossed some lines into no man's land. Without any prospects ahead of him, or much remaining of whatever he had left behind, he stayed on with Atlas where he had some place and purpose. And lucky for us,
T.
he'd been most of the muscle behind the momentum that got us up and running in those early years. And with that, the freight at the lodge was more a proper slaughter. Atlas got his lost liquor back. Well, most of it.
Thank you.
Made off with our robbers' would-be profits and a small fleet of dead men's vehicles too. After that, Mordecai followed Atlas back to the city like his ferocious little shadow. At the Marigold Room, Atlas busied himself leveraging goodwill with an old acquaintance among the management, as well as indulging some personal interests. I do believe that's where he met his wife. Victor stayed with us a while, accompanying us on pickups, and keeping that one eye on things around here in case we had any trouble with lingering loose ends. What trouble we had was little trouble indeed. The Reverend and I ordered...
Oh, for the love of... Stop talking!
Well, you'll do business with us again then.
No! No, no,
Good
no,
God,
no, 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 no! Since Atlas departed us, we've had a new buyer. I'm afraid they rather insist on their exclusivity.
Marigold.
Yeah. And whatever's giving them the nervous twitch lately is making me nervous. First, I hear they've taken up some aggressive spring cleaning. Then they start skulking about here, squinting at us with more eyes than usual. So, matter of policy, unless you're here for an honest-to-goodness funeral, we've got naught to do with it. Hence, the slightly overzealous vehicular acrobatics.
We can't do business for nostalgia's sake, small child.
Well, if not for nostalgia, How about amends for this?
What? Didn't I just... Were you listening? Besides, look at him. He's good as new.
He looks precisely like he got hit in the face first. And what would Victor think of this? The grievous wounding of his dear, dear beloved protege. You broke him. Will he ever talk sense again? I know on top of your other troubles, the last thing you need is an enemy like Victor, but I'm not sure he'll let this go unanswered.
Put your head back down.
What? Alright. In the spirit of friendship,
And duress,
we'll discuss the possibility
grudgingly,
of a very minor arrangement.
evil incarnate.
Before you get lost in negotiations, perhaps you can accompany me upstairs for a moment, Miss Pepper. This must all be very exciting, You seem so much in your element doing this that I have to wonder, what exactly do you think you're doing? Say it out loud, please.
Well, circumstances what they are. I guess I'm brokering a purchase of alcohol for an underground criminal establishment. But just a small one, though.
Don't forget gunslinging. I just wanted to make sure you taken these things into consideration, clever miss.
Well, I've really only ever shot for sport before.
And Victor certainly didn't send you here.
You know Victor that well, huh? Times are hard right now, and we're...
Well enough to know he just as soon sent his own daughter.
He sent Rocky. I tagged along. I'm usually just the cashier. But this is Victor's doing anyway. If he hadn't laid waste to my social life in my afternoon, I wouldn't be here. Metaphorical daughter?
Daughter.
What? Where?
I suppose wherever his wife is.
Went up my nose. Why are they around? And why do you know all this and I don't? I rifled through all his stuff.
Oh my. Why so much concern?
I guess I thought someone should be concerned a little bit. But I didn't know.
I see. We had some common ground is all. And they're not around because I think maybe that's the best that could be done amid all the mistakes and bad turns that bring people like him to places like this.
What brought you then?
Oh, well, the funerary business is thriving in the city. But all the people, the noise, I had no tolerance. Not after the war. We resorted to doing what we do now to stay where it's quiet as the grave. The way Bobby saw it, Atlas had the antidote for our troubles. My trouble. But I just hope someone like you would have no such reasons to be here. And would be smart enough not to invent any. Inhospitable as it sounds, it'll be safer for everyone if you leave as soon as you're done. And your friend is on his feet. He'll be hurting later. This will help. Here's extra dressing. Keep the wounds clean with this. I know doctors aren't always an option in situations, but if he loses consciousness again, has unevenly dilated pupils, a lot of ongoing clumsiness, incoherent speech, dramatic mood swings, at least drop him off at a hospital.
Someone should have dropped him off at the hospital a long time ago. Then she pulls me aside and tells me Victor has some estranged family somewhere. By the way, if anyone asks, you're practically the son he never had. And that's your cue to say something that makes no sense, so I know you're alright.
You drive?
Of course. Once or twice. Mostly we're rolling downhill. It seems like this would be easier if I could reach the pedals and see over the steering wheel at the same time. Anyway, where to, mister? Where do you live?
We're already there.
Well, That explains some things. But it won't do for tonight. I'm sure Miss M would let you sleep on the office couch.
No! Oh no! Can't let Miss M see this. She'll know I ruined everything. What did I ruin?